Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for another Tech Talk. And this week we've got another talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and I'm joined tonight by Saba Samiei. Saba, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, MACSO Technologies MACSO Technologies is at the forefront of global artificial intelligence, or AI technology, focusing on making it accessible to as many people as possible with a very heavy focus on the non-tech sector. And MACSO is a platform created to bring intelligence to a variety of sensors with a vision to do sensor fusion. Now that sounds complicated. And they have a suite of products, from a scalable data collection tool to generating and implementing AI models. And MACSO's first application of the platform is a solution that uses AI-enabled audio sensors to detect early respiratory illnesses in animals, which we're going to have Saba speak to us this evening about. I mean, this is amazing work. And Saba was awarded the coveted 2023 Women in AI APAC Innovator Award at the annual Women in AI Awards held in June in New South Wales, Australia. So Saba, you are the founder and CEO of MACSO. Could you just give us a little bit of background on yourself prior to MACSO, please?
Sure. So originally, I'm from Iran. I moved to India when I was 16, and I moved to New Zealand when I was 22 as a postgrad diploma in computing student. And then I worked for a few years at different companies, different roles, but all the time in technology. My last company before MACSO was Microsoft, where I was a partner development manager. And also in 2017, I went back to university. I went to AUT and I did a thesis-based master's in AI ethics, which is what opened the door for me to found MACSO and basically build up the vision that I have today for the company. And in April 2021, I officially started MACSO.
Well, that's fantastic. So MACSO leverages off state-of-the-art machine learning techniques to train models for a variety of applications, from cloud-based to hardware-specific neural networks. Look, tell us what that means in layman's terms, please, Saba.
Sure. Yeah, I think basically the best way to explain MACSO and why it exists and the platform that we're creating is to do what I always like to do, which is compare artificial intelligence with human intelligence. As humans, one of the most fundamental features that we have that has allowed our existence and survival throughout, the years that we've existed is our sensory system. If something happens around us, we can see it. If not, we can hear it. If we need to, we get close to it, we touch it, we smell it, sometimes taste it, and then based on all of those inputs, we make a decision as to what our next course of action should be. However, with industries growing a lot faster than we can train any number of humans to be present everywhere at all times, there is a risk, but at the same time, an opportunity for us to create a system that replicates that sensory part of the human brain. Something that can enable us to have trained eyes and ears everywhere so that we can detect risks early and prevent major catastrophes.
So what are some of the examples of models that have been trained by MACSO and applied to applications? So give us some real life examples, please, Saba.
Sure. Yeah. So our roadmap is divided into the 5 senses of a human. We go after each sensor at a time and what we call as applied artificial intelligence. The first one we went after is audio, so kind of like a human ear. And our first solution became an AI-enabled audio sensor for early respiratory disease detection of animals, which we started with the swine industry at the back of the African swine fever pandemic. So if you think about a pig farm, often when the farmers are walking around or the stocks people are walking around, they would hear sounds of respiratory illness. In pigs, it's usually coughs. However, because there aren't as many people to be present everywhere on the farm at all times, sometimes by the time the farmers realize that their herd is sick, the chances are that that would have spread everywhere else on the farm. So what we do with MACSO is we've created an audio sensor that listens to the pigs 24/7 and sends an alert to the farmer as soon as it detects sick pigs. And the impact that has left on our pilot farm, which is a farm in the United States, is that it has reduced their death rate from an average of 4.8 to now 1.4%. So it just shows how important that early detection is. Another application that we have brought in, so the second sensor is an indoor air quality monitoring sensor, which has actually been adopted for two different use cases. One is for detection of vape and smoke, which a lot of schools are now interested in, especially with the vaping epidemic everywhere. And the second one is using those sensors to tell people inside buildings if the effective air change rate inside the building is fast enough not to allow infectious aerosols to linger, so that, if your colleague catches a cold, the entire floor doesn't end up with, that same cold or that same flu. So yeah, these are some of or basically three of the real life applications that we've developed to date. And then you take that, you apply it everywhere, and you can see the applications of this just become endless.
Yeah, truly global applications. So what are some of the key features of these machine learning techniques? So who would they cater to other than, well, obviously pig farming, schools, who else might we be looking at?
Yeah, basically, pretty much anywhere that you would want to have some sort of a sensor. And I know that's a very kind of generic term, but it is true. So anywhere that you want to have some sort of sensor to act on your behalf 24/7, it could be predictive maintenance and manufacturing. It could be detecting bushfires at early stages. It could be using to detect baby cries on baby monitors, security features detecting gunshots, footsteps if people are like walking around. Who we work with usually are hardware partners. So people who have some sort of a hardware and want to add intelligence to that hardware. As a software company, we step in, we do data collection, so very targeted data collection for their use case. We engineer that data, we train AI models, and then we deploy them. And I think that's what you were mentioning about whether it's like cloud or hardware specific. We do have applications where we deploy them in the cloud, or we have applications that we actually put those neural networks on the edge. So we take the computation as close to the event as possible. We make it private because the computation happens on the device. No data leaves, no data goes back to the cloud. And also it becomes very easy to use in situations where network connectivity could be a big issue, because then you don't need to stream that entire data all the way to the cloud. So we have multiple basically deployment strategies depending on what the use case is.
So is this platform currently being used in our New Zealand agri-tech sector?
It is, yes. We do have a farm in New Zealand that is and has been our pilot farm for quite some time. The good thing about New Zealand is that respiratory illnesses in livestock isn't as big an issue for a variety of different factors: animal welfare, the climate, size of New Zealand, distance from other countries. So on that front, it's not a huge issue. However, because of that, we've been able to take our application a step even further and bring some animal welfare features into it. So not only using these devices, we can detect respiratory disease detection, we are now working on detecting pain. So in pig farming, for example, that could be as a result of tail biting, which happens, or a mother crushing the babies, or the pigs kind of jumping on top of each other. Anything that could turn into some sort of a noise that is a sign of pain. That's now the feature that we are trying to teach the devices so that would then become adopted in New Zealand.
So these are very real animal welfare effects in terms of being able to prevent further harm to an animal, which is a wonderful thing. And I also thought that with the bushfires or forest fires, that would be enormous opportunities around those that have been obviously in places like California and Australia, but actually also even in New Zealand. So massive effects. So what are the key benefits to businesses using this tool?
Basically, it enables them to do basically have eyes, ears, or any other sensors that they need in the environment 24/7. We focus heavily on early risk detection and disaster prevention. And recently, we've also been approached by some companies trying to do ecosystem monitoring. To basically give them information about the number of animals, for example, in a location. We have been approached by companies trying to detect, for example, wild boars or wild pigs, which do a huge amount of damage. Yeah, it's bringing intelligence basically wherever you need it, and private intelligence too. The other key feature, especially with our data collection tool, is, and a lot of people kind of like ask about, data is the new oil, blah, blah, blah. The reality is pretty much every day we are creating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. Yet at the same time, when we want to create certain AI models, we don't have good data. And the global artificial intelligence industry is now moving towards good data rather than big data. And that's where our data collection tool comes in the picture. We customize it to a customer's need, and we enable the non-tech staff who are field workers who would be able to give us access to real life data. We would enable them to then collect relevant data for companies. And then we would do that engineering of that data, and we would train models with high quality, very well engineered real life data to then give them models that as soon as it's deployed, it would start bringing an immediate business impact.
Well, this is so your key markets at the moment. You've got some work going on in the US, and I saw today that you are advertising for a key staff member based in the US and to join your team. So are there, other than the US and New Zealand, are there other areas where you have some market share?
Yes. So we are talking to some farms in China, especially that for the agri-tech solution. That is what inspired it, the African swine fever pandemic. So there's some conversations going on there. And we were recently approached by a company based out of Europe, also an animal health company, who want to run some tests on our devices in 3 different countries, 3 different regions. So we have some basically conversations with them as well. The way I always get this question when I start talking about, how big and wide our approach is, and they're like, oh, but you're just a startup and you've got a small team. The thing is, we work with distributors. So we work with big companies that would then take the technology and distribute it. That's why we work with hardware companies. And we create these solutions that are heavily scalable to basically any type of hardware. So it's one piece of software, which is hardware agnostic. It can sit anywhere. And so that's how we kind of scale to different geographies and different markets. Basically, our partners do that for us. And yes, we are hiring. If anyone's listening to this, it's a technical sales rep in the United States. We do have, obviously, I'm here in New Zealand, so I would usually work with the New Zealand customers. And we our sales rep in the US will basically take care of all of the North American region customers.
Well, I've met your team in New Zealand, and I was very impressed, as I think I've already told you. Just a lovely group of people, but also incredibly intelligent. Just wonderful. So, how can people get in contact with MACSO if they're interested in either talking to you about what's available or thinking about some other opportunities with MACSO?
Yeah, very easily. So they can either reach me through LinkedIn, or they can send us an email at contact@maxo.ai. And I would, I'm always like, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm working 24/7 basically. So I would get in touch with them as soon as possible. But yeah, anybody out there who wants it, we have, actually, we were talking about customers and opportunities. We have a music company that we are going to talk to who want to differentiate basically different instrument sounds as well. So you can see the applications of this platform is just endless. So if you are a solution company, or if you're a hardware company, or if you are in the AI space and want to at some point join the team, yes, please get in touch with us. Use contact@maxo.ai.
So thank you, Saba. So, what intrigues you most about the potential of artificial intelligence?
Um, hmm. I've said this story a few times, and I'm thankful to you for giving me this platform to say it again. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to do something that lasts beyond my lifetime. I remember when I was 8, I wanted to get all humans out of Earth because I knew in a few thousand years the Earth wouldn't be a good place for them to live, and I got laughed at. But anyway, the dream didn't go away until I came across the potential of artificial intelligence, and I realized the impact, the wide scale impact it has, and so many doors that it can open, and so many possibilities, so many dreams that it can make real. And I think that's what intrigues me the most about artificial, and the possibilities of and everything that I can do with it, or we can do with it. But yeah, I think that's, and I haven't stopped ever since I came across the concept and I started researching and learning about it. It hasn't stopped, and I can only think about all the things that I don't know that I really, really, really want to learn about it.
Look, Saba, it's people like you who change the world for the better. So, how do you think that New Zealand sits when we think about AI readiness and the impacts it's having already on society and industry and everyday lives? And are we actually really aware? Do you think in New Zealand about where it is at the moment and the opportunities, as well as obviously the risks?
Um, I think New Zealand can use more education in this space. Schools, universities, maybe TV programs, shows, stuff like that. One thing about New Zealand that always people say is, "Oh, it's a great test bed." I don't like saying that. I think New Zealand it has an unfair advantage to be an early adopter. And there's a difference between being an early adopter and a test bed. A test bed is you test something, if it works, fine. If it doesn't matter because the impact wasn't really big. An early adopter is a place, a nation that changes the world. We always talk about having a seat at the table. Well, I think New Zealand has the opportunity to build part of that table and then decide who sits on it. And that's my aim and my goal with MACSO as well.
Well, I think that's very inspirational. And I think on that note, I'll say thank you very much, Saba, for spending some time with us tonight. And really thank you for the inspirational work that you and your team are doing. I just think they're a wonderful team. And thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, definitely. Shout out to my team. Love them. They're some of the smartest people on the planet.
Well, it's always about the team, isn't it? Okay.
100%.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.